Mother Mary Comes to Me by Arundhati Roy. I can't believe that I am holding this book and sitting in front of you.
You are holding this book and you're sitting in front of me. Yes.
Because I just remember it makes me very emotional, thinking how I held your first book, The God of Small Things. And this is somewhat surrealistic, no? The God of Small Things, it is about River Meenachil, and we are just on the top of water, floating and floating. And I just remember how you phrase certain things in this book. You speak about the thorns in your circulatory system, no, in your blood vessels. Somewhere in the book, they were just floating.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were always a water
Water
creature,
baby.
water baby.
Well, I think when I started to think about writing The God of Small Things after working in cinema, after studying architecture and working in cinema, the first thing I thought was, can you write the river? If you can write the river, then you can write a book, you know. And so for me, the Meenachil was that test of my skill and my craft. Could I do it, you know? In the same way, in the Ministry of Utmost Happiness, can you write the city? And in Mother Mary Comes to Me, can you write the mother?
Can you write the woman?
Can you write the woman? Can you write the mother?
Can you write
or the non-mother?
or the non-mother? Actually, this is I read this book as if you are writing about Mother India, because the story, just like your mother's story is there, your story is there, and our country's or nation's story is also there. In Malayalam we say Kusume Kusumolpati. That is a phrase by Kalidasan, is, if I remember well. So it's just like that. From one flower, another flower, and this encompasses the whole thing. Were you aware that the story of the nation was entwined or intermingled in your story? Your story as well as your mother's story?
Meera, you're a writer. You know that not one word in our books comes without us being aware of what we are doing, isn't it? Of course, I was aware. And to me, a story in which there are two women who happen to be mother and daughter, but actually there are two adult women. Both women live in the public world. None of us are, what we call hothouse plants. We are not growing inside some closed house. We are both out there. We are both fighting our own battles. And to me, because of the kind of writer I am, it would have been meaningless if it was not told in the backdrop of all the politics that happens in the country. I'm someone who has written directly and indirectly about it for years and years and years. So, of course, it is absolutely so important, and I'm glad you asked, because to me, this is not just some private story about a conflict between mother and daughter. Mother and daughter is almost incidental in
yeah,
the
your
sense.
story starts in 1962 when you were evicted from the hills of Assam, where people were massacred, no? This is kind of
no. In 62, we were
China.
We were the
Yeah.
women and children were asked to leave those border districts where my mother lived with her husband, my father, and we had to come down to Kolkata because of the war. And then she decided she was not going to go back to her husband and came down south. Yeah, the massacre that is in the book is 1983.
And
the Nelly massacre.
yes.
Yeah.
So at that time you were again in Italy.
Yes.
And that kind of going up the hill, coming down, and then going up the hill, no? it reminded me of the landscape of Pallikudam itself. You were like
Pali-
climbing a small.
to me, well, yesterday, in fact, all the publishers from America and UK and all are here, and I took them and all my friends from Delhi and elsewhere to Pallikudam. And you know, the extraordinary school and the extraordinary architecture of that school. People keep asking me, can you give us photos? I said, it's very hard because that it's all hidden under the greenery and it's all spread across. You can't have a photograph.
Yeah.
You can only come and see it, you know?
Experience it, in fact.
Yes.
I was asking, I was trying to ask you about the kind of memories you had about 1962 in Assam. How do you remember those days when you were forced to leave? How did you
Actually,
come
I was,
to Calcutta?
yeah.
Was it by road?
I was only 2, you know, I have no memory
Memories,
at all of
right.
it. And in fact, in the opening chapter, there's a part where when The God of Small Things is published, initially my mother was, you know,
I know.
yeah,
I
she was
know.
troubled about reading it. And then she called me and she said, I want to ask you about a particular part in the book where Estepan and Rahel, the twins in The God of Small Things, remember their parents when they fought. And it said they grew huge like giants and they pushed the children from one to the other, saying, you keep them, I don't want them. And my mother said, how do you remember this? Because you were so young. So I said, I don't remember it. It's fiction. I made it up. And she said, no, you didn't. And I was like, oh my goodness, I actually don't feel the sorrow or the burden of that. And I thought I had made it up. And so it made me think about what is fiction, you know? It's a mix of memory, of imagination, of premonitions of the future. It's such an interesting, smoky thing that writers think they own, but they don't.
Maybe someone else is filling up the, or we see the picture without knowing what all parts.
Sometimes, you know, my publisher or my agent, in my literary agent, if they know I'm working on something or I'm not working on something, they would ring me up and saying, how's it going? And I remember once telling them, you know, I don't write, I just wait.
Yeah.
You know?
That's so beautiful. And you haven't actually described how your father fell in love with your mother or why he proposed to her.
So, I mean,
you ever-
as you know from the book, there's not much talk about, I mean, my mother never said anything to
Yes.
us about our father. So, my brother and I grew up really not knowing exactly who he was or what happened or anything. There were these few set things she used to tell us about him. And there were a couple of photos that we had seen, but we didn't know anything. All we knew was that she herself had a very cruel father. She was in Calcutta working as a secretary in a company called Metal Box, where her older
yeah.
brother, George Isaac, was working along with my father's older brother, who was Pranoy Roy's father.
Father, yeah.
So that's how the two younger siblings met. And my mother just said, I married the first man who proposed to me because I wanted to get away from my father. But she said that on the first day of their marriage, she realized that he was addicted to alcohol and she was in big trouble, you know.
No, my interest is that the way you have described Mickey Roy. How could he love such a very stern and powerful?
She may not have been that when she was
When she
young,
was
you know.
young,
She may
yes,
have
yes.
just
She
been
must
a
have-
desperate young woman
Yes.
trying to get away from something, you know.
Yeah, and you haven't said so much about your other mother's other uncles, no? Except G. Isaac.
I didn't know him. I mean, he had left. I didn't know him at all. Yeah.
And her sister.
She, of course, I have said a little bit
Yes.
about, but again, there was not really a relationship, and whatever little there was wasn't very affectionate or anything.
Then, when you are mapping your whole family history, it is like mapping a broader picture of uh, the evolution of our your generation as well, no? The kind of women's empowerment, if you say. But again, you are about a decade. You started out a decade before mine, and even in our times, it was such an adventure for a girl to leave at an age of 16 and go to Delhi, and then do what all you did, accomplish what all you accomplished. No, you had more experience and more uh, knowledge about the world than your mother. Did she ever accepted that fact?
Well, I mean, I left. It was a great and plotted escape, because by the time I was 16, the conflict between us was so intense. And it was really funny because, there are many people who have very famous parents, maybe they're famous musicians, or maybe they're famous politicians, or maybe they're famous sports people whose passion is what they do and not their children, which is fine. In my case, my mother's passion was other people's children,
Yes.
which was very odd. And there was a lot of, emotional as well as physical. It was difficult for me to stay, and I knew I had to leave. So there were two stages to that. The first was plotting to get into the School of Architecture, because I heard that once you're in there, you can start earning your living while you're studying. You can
Yeah.
work in offices. So that was the first stage. And by the time I was in second year, things had got so bad that I knew that I just couldn't come home. So I left. And it wasn't because I wanted an adventure. It was because I wanted to survive, and I would break. I would be crushed if I hadn't left. And then from there, being a young woman on the loose, in Delhi, I had the choice between either going that usual route of, drugs and whatever, or just doing everything I could to finish my college and
Yeah, real education.
yeah. And I think I keep saying, I mean, I didn't go to all the Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard business, but my real education was on the streets of Delhi, without money, without relatives, without family. And it was not unhappy, or I'm not a great victim of anything. I was determined to be happy. And if you'll see today that that family that I built of friends was the boat that I sailed on, and they are here now. They are here in Cochin. Everybody that I love is going to be in that room tomorrow. So I keep joking, it's either my wedding or my funeral, but oh, actually, it's a book launch.
So I'm off my questions. Off my questions. Yeah, yeah. This is very emotional, no? Even reading this book, you say you are determined to be happy, but it seems that the book is determined to make us cry.
No,
It
but
is
but I think
hard.
yes, I think that I mean, I hope anyway that it's not a manifesto for how to live or anything, but I hope that it tells women that, look, you got options. You got options. There's not just one way of living or being happy or whatever. There are options, and they're great. And my mother, I wanted her to be a character in the pages of literature, because she is a woman who unleashed all herself on the world, not just the nice parts, not just, no, I mean, the cruel and crazy parts to me are equally important and equally wonderful. And meet her as an adult, not as an infant. You know,
Right at an age of 2.
I grew up
Yeah.
a long time ago, you know.
Yes,
So
that's what I said.
I'm not like some infant who's complaining, oh, I had such a bad time. No, I'm grateful for whatever. I would not exchange her for anybody else.
But she was very good with her students, children,
Yeah.
and she knew children's psychology, and that she was very. She didn't apply that in her own. That's interesting.
It's like that. I was speaking in the school yesterday, and all my publishers who had come were just sitting there and crying at the beauty of that place and that the singing and the children, and I said, you know, it's actually in order for her to give them the light, my brother and I had to absorb the darkness. And it's fine. We are both fine in our own ways. He's done what he's done by himself. I've done what I've done by myself. She did what she did by herself, with, of course, help from all the forces in the universe. We are none of us, you know, individual agents. We are all grateful for all the battles other people have fought for us. So it's not some great statement of individuality, but you know, literature is not hagiography, you know. So for me, all of her deserves to be in the pages of literature, not just some aspect of her. And as for me, I don't want to sell some nice version of myself, because I'm also a complicated person. I've also done crazy things, and all of it contributes to telling women it's okay. You don't have to be nice and virtuous and coy, and there are other ways of liberating yourself and being happy, you know. And you'll see that my friends who are here and who will be in that hall tomorrow, such extraordinary people, and we just keep looking at each other and say, yesterday we were singing that song, you know, I want to break free. I said, it's too late, I am free. You know, it's okay.
ഇടയ്ക്കൊരു കാർട്ടൂൺ കണ്ടതായിട്ട് ഓർക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. Daughter is signing off her books, new books, a new author. So her parents are there, and both of them telling her, look, we had no idea that you were going to be a writer. Otherwise, else we would have behaved in a more
better way. Allah, a journalist from Ireland was doing an interview with me. You know, the Irish are wonderful with their literature. So he says, you know, there's a saying that when a writer is born into a family, that family is destroyed.
Yes.
I said, well, fortunately mine was destroyed before I came along. But it's true, you know.
But the thing is,
writers, they say writers, they eat their own young.
Yeah.
And there is a, you know, there is a ruthlessness that I possess as a writer.
This is actually very revolutionary, this book, and its content, because it completely destroys not your family or your mother's family or even any other.
The idea of a family.
Idea of a family. Idea of a family. Middle class Indian society is like cherishing, no?
You see, it's not my intention to destroy anything. It's my intention to say that there are options, and those options are fun. You know, like this is not the only option. By all means, if you want to do it. But don't tell me it's the only option, you know.
I think that is why the right wings, they hate the women writers, because they always say that there is another way of looking at family, there is another way of looking at relationships.
We are saying that the safest places can be the most dangerous.
Yes, true. And I just fell in love with your way of expressing things, no, in such a എങ്ങനെയാണ് മലയാളത്തിൽ അത് പറയേണ്ടതെന്ന് അറിയില്ല. പക്ഷേ വെൻ യു സേ ദാറ്റ് യു ഫെൽറ്റ് ആസ് ഇഫ് യു ആർ സിങ്കിൽ വെള്ളം ഒഴിക്കുമ്പോൾ, വാഷ് ബേസിനിൽ വെള്ളം ഒഴിക്കുമ്പോൾ അത് പോകുന്നത് പോലെ ദാറ്റ് യു ഡിസപ്പിയർഡ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ the kind of pain it imparts. It's like, how did you get that metaphor? Was it exactly how you felt at that time?
exactly how I felt. And to me, Meera, as you know, because you are also a writer and a writer of fiction and a beautiful writer, craft is everything, no?
Yes.
To me, the the life I lived. I thought about it, I survived it, I processed it, and all that. The real challenge was, can you write it? You know?
I still remember when I was reading The God of Small Things, uh, the, the, the metaphor which actually struck me or gave me a slap was like the golden coins of light falling on the ground through that rubber plantation, no?
Yeah.
I was wondering why I didn't feel like why how I couldn't
See those.
see those in that way.
Well, maybe I'm a very visual person, partly
Yes,
because I'm
of
a
course,
trained architect.
of
Also,
course.
I've worked in cinema,
Yes.
and when I started to write The God of Small Things, I literally told myself I want to write a stubbornly visual but unfilmable book. So obviously, like I have had so many people who wanted to make a movie out of The God of Small Things, and I said no, because everyone has that movie in their head,
Yes.
and I don't want it to be one movie.
Yeah.
I want everyone to have their own movie.
Yeah, I actually imitated or mimicked you also when people asked me to uh, the rights to
Hang
Hang
Woman.
Woman. Yeah, I said just like Arundhati Roy said, no, I am not going to give the permission to see it
Yeah.
because it's like, see, I like this paragraph. I wasn't Christian enough,
Yeah.
but do you think you are a little bit Christian?
Of course I am.
In what
I
way?
am. I'm in so many ways a little Christian, a little communist, a little Hindu,
Yes.
a little everything.
Yes.
But I'm not enough.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not those
I
things.
am interested in finding out in which ways you are a Christian.
Well, if I started talking about that, that would become the point of everything.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a separate discussion. But um, Jesus is sexy, isn't he? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, let's not. I don't want to get into this because
Yes.
in today's world, it's a crazy moment.
Yeah, okay. And then you wasn't Hindu enough.
Yeah.
Can
I'm
you
not even. I don't think I'm very Hindu at all. Actually, no.
a little bit Hindu?
To me,
No, I am
fundament-
just probing to find out
I know.
what you mean by being a little bit Hindu.
Well, for example, in The God of Small Things, there was that moment of absolute, I mean, in real life also, that moment of absolute awe when you're watching Kadakali and you listen to the stories being interpreted, and it's so beautiful the way it's done. But to me,
No, I am.
like what I find very disturbing is the idea of caste, being institutionalized in it. So I would not say that there's it's a problem for me.
Being Hindu is all about caste. It's not about
So
Kathakali.
exactly.
I
No,
beg
so
to differ.
I'm just saying, but in that
Yeah.
story, also to the story of Karna, and it
True.
was cast, again.
True.
So for me, that's very, very problematic.
Yeah. But you never had an.
But
an-
then let's
e-
not deny that the Syrian Christians are very casteist.
That's what I was. Yeah.
They are the same. Muslims are casteist. Sikhs are casteist. Caste pervades everything in
And
India.
maybe you can understand what caste is in the Syrian Christian community by being that address illatha pillere.
Ada.
They are a different caste, no?
Address illatha pillare put me on the edge, but it did not put me at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why was that?
No, because there are certain privileges one had, of being from this cosmopolitan family, speaking English. So it's not the same as being a Dalit. at the bottom of the ladder, but I was on the edge. It was just like, you don't belong to us. No one's going to marry you. You don't even have money. You don't have address. You don't have tarawad. You don't have anything. I'm saying, thank you, thank God, I'm free.
And you wasn't communist enough. I would like to know how far you are communist, or how.
Well, I mean, just in the way that we admire the Indian Constitution for being the first document that said all citizens are equal, I I like an ideology that says to each according to his needs, and but I I have a certain kind of spirituality and a wonder at how beautiful this planet is and who made it. Like, you can critique it, you can analyze it scientifically, but can you tell us how the hell somebody thought of something so intricate and so beautiful? I don't want to be the person who has all the answers. And communists tend to be people who have all the answers.
Really?
You know.
But you haven't said I was in Congress enough. Why?
Congress, Congress is.
I mean,
it's not. It's
I
Congress
mean
is
the
not
center
a,
of center or left of center.
It's clear from the book, but
Yeah.
I'm not a. I mean that you're coming into party politics. This
Yes.
is not about that.
No. That I am. What I mean is not party politics, but the stand. No, where you
It's
stand.
it's a. I mean, Congress is all over the place, so you never know what it's going to be when.
Yes. Yes. Do you think you are still not enough?
See, I am somebody who believes the circle should never close.
Yeah.
Whether it's religion, whether it's ideology, whether it's literature, whatever it is, we keep the circle open. And if I believed that I was enough, I would be an insufferable person, because obviously, none of us are enough. My book is so much about my affection for failure, people who have failed. They are so much more interesting as my father or whoever else. So yes, I do believe I'm not enough. I don't think anybody's ever enough. All of us are imperfect and inadequate in some ways, and all this strutting around and beating your chest, it bores me to death.
You have about so many sedition cases against you, no?
Not really. I just have the threat all
Threat
the time.
only.
Yeah.
And your book is in the Asadi is in the list of banned books only. Even then, how did you get the courage to write one more book?
No, that just happened way after I'd finished writing this, but it would not stop me from writing. I mean, in this regime, it's an honor to have books banned.
Yes.
And it's way beyond the era when you can ban a book, because you just can't do that anymore, right?
And now, what are you planning to write? More seditious things or more?
Meera, somebody I know told me that the reason that he likes my writing is because I write as though they've already killed me. So when I write, I don't already have a plan for the next thing.
Okay.
Not just about my writing, about my life. I have no plans. I just am open to anything, and I never know what will happen to me next, and that's the way I like it.
Okay, when it comes to today's politics, how do you place ourselves? We Indians, we are Indians, dear. We are in India, my dear.
I think that we are a country that has lost its dignity, or whatever dignity that we had. This regime has made us lose our dignity within ourselves and also to the rest of the world. It is teaching us to hate each other. It's teaching us to reduce ourselves, reduce our languages, reduce our diversity, reduce our history. It is teaching us to be as small and miserable as the people who rule us. We have allowed ourselves to lose our dignity, and without dignity, we are nothing.
And one more thing, I read in the book that you wanted to give farewell to your mom like a queen. You still remember, believe in
Yeah, I mean, all
in kings and queens and royalty.
well, we believe in rock and roll royalty.
Yes.
We believe in punk royalty. We don't believe in the blue-blooded
Royalty is
royalty.
royalty.
We do have queens and kings. Maybe they're living on the streets,
Yeah.
but they're not the Raja Maharaja. That's a different kind of queen. But I never wanted to defeat my mother. I think she knew that if anyone was a threat, it was me. But I never wanted to defeat her. I never wanted to take away her dignity. I just wanted her to go out like a queen, and she did.
And it is so unbelievable or incredible that the divorce notice came.
Sorry?
The divorce notice, no, the divorce,
Yes.
the paper. What was it? Divorce permission.
Yeah,
How do you
whatever,
call that
the
paper?
final papers.
Yeah, the final paper came on that day
Yeah,
itself. No,
yeah.
that is.
But you see, that was also, as you can tell from the book, I mean, even Pradeep was here,
Yeah.
is here. And, there is no shortage of love between us. It's
I know,
just-
I know. I am a witness because
is
we
just-
were on a jury together,
huh.
and I was thinking about that. Most of the time, he was speaking about you, and the moment he utters your name,
Huh.
the way he is changing, no,
Huh.
he is like a tree which is suddenly sprouting
Yeah.
flowers and all.
In
no?
fact, so there's no, it's just like for us,
It's like
not
devotion.
important.
You are a cult or something.
No. I'm also devoted to
Yeah.
him. He's also an amazing man. But the point is that, as I said, we got divorced with the same lack of seriousness with which
Yes,
we
sir.
got married. It's just the emotion is there. But on the subject of queens, I wanted to tell you that Queen Elizabeth, who my mother loved, died very soon after my mum. And the Guardian in England wrote to me saying, "Can you write for us a piece about the passing of the Queen?" And I wanted to say, "Yes, sure, but it won't be the one that you're thinking
Yeah.
of. It'll be ours."
And it is such a reforming, transformational book, I would say. Am I using the right word? I'm not. No, പക്ഷേ അത് അതിഭയങ്കരമായി നമുക്ക് സ്ത്രീകളെ പറ്റിയുള്ള ജീവിതത്തെ പറ്റിയുള്ള മനുഷ്യ അവസ്ഥകളെ പറ്റിയുള്ള ചിന്തകളെ മാറ്റിമറിക്കും. That it is really it will transform many of the readers. No, it will make them cry, it will make them think, it will make them pain,
And it'll make them escape, and it'll make them happy.
and it will. My worry is that it will embolden them to run away from what they thought.
See,
No, I like that metaphor. No, like a small insect, just escaping, finding a route on the spider web. No,
yes.
being the
Yes.
granddaughter of an entomologist, that was a final and the most striking metaphor I could find.
Well, you see, the thing is that if it transforms women, it will have to transform men too,
Yeah.
and then
But
we'll see.
how come the men are not transformed in Kerala and India?
You have to tell me that. I keep wondering about it.
Yeah, I'm looking towards you
Yeah.
for many of the
Yeah.
answers. No,
Well,
you are the Arundhati Nakshatra, and we have to.
I'm not a nakshatram. I'm just like a naughty
By
woman.
by
but
the way,
I think we have to
why
end
did
this.
you let go of the name Susanna?
Because I wanted to be someone else. I was tired
Okay.
of being marginalized over
Yes,
here.
yes. You have written that you wasn't enough, but the book is enough. The book is enough and more than enough to make us think about our what our life is and what a woman's life is, what mother and daughter relationship is, and it is very transformational, Arundhati. And I am so privileged to read this. This is not a book which has a closure and needs a closure. It has to continue. And I think this is a befitting reply to those who wants to ban your books. All the best.
They cannot.